Okay, everybody, welcome back to What's the Obsession True Crime. And I'm so glad that you guys are here with us this evening. And tonight we are going to be talking about Bryan Kohberger, who, as you likely know, just a short time ago, I think on July 2nd, pled guilty to the murders of 4 college students in Moscow, Idaho, after the entire universe thought that he was headed on a fast track to going toward the trial that was supposed to start, almost right about now, but in the very beginning of this upcoming August. So since that happened, there has been still a lot of buzz in the Kohberger universe. We have the Kohbergers and the people that have come to terms with the fact that there's not going to be a trial and that he's guilty and he told the truth in that sense only. And we may never hear the truth behind why he did such a heinous thing and why he did such a heinous, egregious, horrific thing to those 4 individuals. Did he mean to kill all of them? Or, were some of them just there as, casualties of his crime that was directed towards one specific person? A lot of people have very specific thoughts on that, opinions that are, some of them are very well developed by the evidence that's been available to us, and they make great, rational, logical sense. And then there's that whole category of people that have very strong feelings, but the information that they use to support their views is straight out of cuckoo Prosecution land. It's really kind of interesting to watch go down at this time. So just let me say hello to those of you who are here in chat. Thank you for being here, and then we'll get right into it. Hey, Angel D, how are you doing? Angel D says, yeah, those people coming out of the woodwork claiming to be in contact with Bryan Kohberger are friends with him after almost 3 years. Weird. Yeah, I don't believe it either. Hey, Chloe, how are you doing? It's great to see you. Hey, Cuffy, how are you doing? Hey, Warning Label Knee, it's great to see you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Hey, Honey Bumma Girl, how's married life going? Hey, Claudia, how are you doing? Let's see. Claudia Salas says, Kelly, can you bring up Bryan a virgin? What do you think that means? Bryan a virgin. I think he might be a virgin. I've really been diving deep into this whole, Elliot Rodger situation, the possible connection with Elliot Rodger, what was underlined on page 18 that appeared as item number 2 on the evidence return log when when the SWAT team came in and apprehended Bryan Kohberger from his parents' house in Pennsylvania, zip tied his parents, nice, safe and secure somewhere out of the way, and took what they needed to take for evidence based on the warrant that they had, I'm sure. So I did just drop a video about Papa Rodger and did a deep analysis of Bryan Kohberger's DeSalle Reddit survey. So I don't want to, what do they say, like beat a dead horse, but I don't think it's beating a dead horse. We're not going to keep talking about the same thing. As I've been looking into this topic, so much is coming up, like is new, that I hadn't been exposed to before, that people are just figuring out, or that people, had been theorizing about, and now there's evidence to support it. I'm just tuned into all of that. And then there's some things where it's like, oh yeah, oh my God, there are so many moving parts to this crime and the mystery that surrounded it. It's just kind of, as I'm looking through it now, it brings back a lot of thoughts. Now, I am working on a video, Claudia, and I can touch on it tonight, comparing Bryan Kohberger to Elliot Rodger, the infamous person who inspired the incel movement. Now, I have to keep redoing things because every time I put up a video having to do with Elliot Rodger, it gets immediately taken down because YouTube sees it as potentially supporting extremist rhetoric, and I understand because he was an extremist, no doubt, right? He hated the entire world because he couldn't get laid, especially women. And due to just that fact, he murdered 4 college students, 2 of them right in front of the Alpha Phi house in California, in Isla Vista, California, and just coincidentally, Kaylee was an Alpha Phi at the University of Idaho. There are a lot of parallels. I have definitely found some differences between the two, but I found more similarities than differences, and we will get into that. It's a good question. Thank you, Claudia. And hey, Stacia, how are you doing? It's great to see you too. Phoenix Lee, hey, thanks for hanging in there. So glad you're here. Let's see. I know I already said hi to Shay, but hi again, Shay. Always so happy you're here. Dawn David, hey, how are you doing? Welcome. Nice to see you. Let's see. And hopefully I didn't miss anyone. I hate it when I do that. Let's see. Okay, I got to read this. I'm reading it to myself. I'm going to read it aloud. So, hey, oh, look, squirrel. I freaking love that name. Well, this is some BS. I'm sitting here trying to explain to a teenager that criminality isn't necessarily psychology because adults can't even comprehend it. But yeah, I got to explain it to someone half their age. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, totally. Criminology takes into account psychology. Absolutely. Criminology cannot exist or be a legitimate study or, social science without relying heavily on classic psychology. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a behavioral therapist. So that is in my wheelhouse. I do know about that. I agree with you, oh, look, a squirrel. Great name again. Hey, PKC. But yeah, sounds a little frustrating. I can explain that if you want to. Hey, Leslie Harris, it's awesome to see you. Thank you for being here. And thank you so much for the cash up the other day. I was having problems with my phone during the live stream. I think it was actually me. I couldn't do too many things at once. So I didn't get to thank you the other night. So thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go down to current time. And I was just going to say, where's my girl, Sirius Black? There you are. So great to see you as always, Sirius Black. It's wonderful in your hair. Hey, Pepper, how are you doing? Nice to see you too. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. All right. I'm just reading some of these little comments here to know maybe what to gear things toward. Oh, and Pepper, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate you so much. Sherry, did I say hi to you? Hi 1,000 times over, my girl, my girl, my girl. I think I did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Phoenix Lee, I just watched that interview too. Phoenix Lee says, I saw an interview with Patterson, James Patterson, the famous crime novelist. James Patterson says all of his nonfiction books he's written, this one is his favorite. Oh, awesome. That is so cool. I just watched that too, and I had some questions. Yeah, so maybe we can talk about that too. And Chloe says about that. Yeah, I like it. No huge reveals or anything, but I would say there are consistent contextual small details that weren't necessarily public before that help weave everything together. Yeah, I think that's a great comment, Chloe. I think that's exactly how the book is functioning. And I think that's how a lot of things out there are functioning. And, like the purpose of what we're doing tonight is to do exactly that. Just like you said, Chloe, weave it all together, right? So, okay, without further ado, I'm going to bring something into the stream and just give me some feedback on the audio. I know during the Watts live stream, I had to unmute my mic when I had assets on. So I'll probably have to do that again, but just give me feedback so I know that your ears are happy. All right. So since we're going to be talking tonight about the Bryan Kohberger's The Hidden Vault of Information and Secrets. The keys or the map. Let's not mix our analogies. The treasure maps to the hidden trails and the buried treasures that Bryan Kohberger himself or Bryan Kohberger through the account of his family, friends, acquaintances, students, classmates, and adversaries communicate to us through their interviews. Some now very hard to find. We're going to look at some of those. And also, by request, all of the Papa Rodger posts and comments. In the video I made, I did just the posts, not the comments. Some of you really didn't like that. So I did want to provide that for you, and then I'll clip it out and make it a separate video because I think that's just how I'm going to have to do this one. But as I was reading through everything, there is some really good stuff in the comments part. So I guess you were right to say, hey, like we need a little more here too. I get it. So as I said, in that video that I already dropped, my big comparison the big comparison was my analysis of the Kohberger DeSalle Reddit survey. So I'm just going to bring this very, very first 2 minutes of my Bryan Kohberger documentary, which I'm currently now reworking to include new information. I'm really excited about it. Okay. Let's see. Oh, I have to go past my intro now because YouTube changed its music policies, but you guys have heard me talk about that enough probably, but I just want YouTube to hear me. That's why I keep saying it. They don't care. All they care about is the dollar bill and the bottom line, baby. All right, here we go. And also the experts that they posted on Reddit that today. Since the day Bryan Kohberger was arrested, December 30th, 2022, and the world learned his name, we have been learning about Bryan Kohberger, his past, the person he was, the person he may be now, and what may have driven him to commit this horrific crime if he is indeed guilty. It was on December 30th, 2022, the day Bryan Kohberger was arrested, the world learned about the research survey that Bryan Kohberger was conducting that he posted on Reddit that inquires into the minds of ex-cons, asking what they were thinking and feeling before, during, and after committing. Somebody who is unstable, who might have some big trouble brewing in their life. Oh, I'm Kelly, creator. Okay, so you know who I am, so we aren't going to have to go into that there. So, oh, wait, let me just go forward through a little bit of this because the next part I do want to discuss with you. Here we go.
But prosecutors made a point in their probable cause affidavit. They went into detail about this Reddit post that the defendant allegedly made, calling out to criminals to provide him with the reason why they chose their victims and committed their crimes. Now, I understand he studies this stuff, but this is still a little strange.
I have to agree with Vinny Politano that Bryan Kohberger's research survey is a little bit strange. The full-length survey is quite long, and within it, it embodies 6 other surveys that you might take when you go to the doctor's office or go to see your therapist. And in the recent video that I just put out, like last week, a few days ago, I broke that all down into the greatest detail possible because due to my career world, I know all about those surveys. There's an aggression survey. There's a guilt and shame survey within Bryan Kohberger's survey. And these are widely used tools for therapists or physicians to evaluate where a person is at. It is my opinion, and the opinion of some colleagues that I've spoken to about this, that these are qualities that Bryan Kohberger was concerned about having or not having in himself, and he put them in the survey in attempt to see if he could relate to others in that way. Am I a criminal because I have these qualities? Let's see if criminals relate to me. Do they have the same qualities?
Still a little strange.
Sounds like he's looking for the reasons why people do the things that they do. Maybe to answer the question for himself. Maybe to explain for him why he's motivated in the way that he is. Are you trying to figure out who you are, or are you trying to figure out who they are? And in this particular case, I think the prosecutors are going to say, yeah, this was about him trying to figure out who he is, because we can tell you who he is. He's this guy.
What do his studies tell you about Bryan Kohberger?
It's not that unusual for sadistic killers to study criminology. We think of the BTK killer in Kansas, the Golden State killer in California. Both had criminology degrees.
Now, that is, of course, the somewhat famous criminologist Katherine Ramsland, who Bryan Kohberger studied under. I just listened to the one interview that she did recently. She had a whole bunch of them scheduled, and she just did her one with Brian Enton. And then under the advisement of her legal counsel, she was told they advised her to do no more. Not right now, honey. So she didn't do any more, but she did say, you know, she was Bryan Kohberger's advisor for his whole undergraduate career. So she knew him for 6 years because he went into the psychology program. It's the same undergrad degree I have too. Did the criminal track or the forensic track, and she is she's a director of that program. So she oversees all of the students in that particular track of the psychology program at DeSales University. And then he entered into the graduate program, the master's degree program. And in that program, he took 3 classes with her. And one was, oh gosh, what was it called? Psychological sleuthing. There was another one about, crime scene analysis. And then the third one was, all about serial killers, where he would have learned deeply about BTK, Ted Bundy, and all of them, right? We know all of them. Bryan Kohberger's research survey was published in his senior year at DeSales University. Just a few months later, in the summer of 2022, Bryan Kohberger moved across country to Washington State University after being accepted into the criminology doctoral program. Here in this video, we're going to look forward in time, and then we're going to take a trip back and hear about what happened to Kohberger in high school. Lots of interesting things there, including a rap song he recorded. Okay, so we'll stop that there. And again, I am doing a revamp on the Bryan Kohberger documentary to add in new information that we know about or I've learned about since, the last time I created it. And I do have to say, I think of all the videos that I've created, it is one of definitely my top 3 that I am proudest of. I would ask that you go check it out, give it a chance when I put out the new version, because I really do believe you'd like it. Don't normally say that about my own content, but I do think you will. It has a lot of information in it. I got a little obsessed when I was making sure I was thorough in that. Local Jazz Hand says, interesting. He wanted to be part of the curriculum. Very, very interesting. Now, because where I'm going with this today, I had a revelation, an aha moment. I don't know what you would call it when I was working on this. I don't know, sometime this weekend. And so, rather than just speaking on it really quickly, I just kind of, took it in, thought about it a little more, checked out some resources to see how the facts that are out there, the evidence is out there. Reality as we know it to be, is that in alignment with my aha moment? And guess what? It is. So I will be telling you all about that very soon. And everything we're looking at is kind of contributing to that aha moment and something that clicked for me. And I think it's going to for you too. Hey, Nelda, how are you doing? It's so great to see you. All right. So I'm going to switch our media up here. So welcome to those of you who are coming in. It's awesome to see you. Always so happy you guys are here. And I hope you're having a great, it's a Monday, right? A great Monday, a great start to your week. You know what to do. Do the YouTube things. Please do click like. YouTube does not like this Kohberger material, especially right now. I didn't have much of a problem with it, but since the plea deal, oh yeah. But I would just appreciate that. So if you don't mind, do that. If you do mind, don't, and that's cool. We love you anyway. Okay, I'll speak for myself. I do. So now we're going to listen to criminal profile Gary Brucato. So Gary Brucato did appear on that Dateline, that kind of, sort of now famous Dateline, at least in the true crime or the Idaho 4 Bryan Kohberger world, that most recently produced Dateline that revealed all of that so-called and actual new information. He had a little spot on that. He frequently appears on this channel, The Interview Room, with Chris McDonough, and who I just love. I love all these guys. Chris McDonough founded the Cold Case Foundation, and Gary Brucato consults for them, and I think he might be a stakeholder. I don't know. But, at first I was like, I thought he had kind of a mealy personality, but when I got past it and I started to listen to his actual theories based on his understanding of human psychology and behavior and how fucking accurate he was every time, I really became enthralled. So this is Gary Brucato talking about the profile for the person who committed these horrible crimes. Keep in mind, this is before Bryan Kohberger got caught. And this is very important. Okay.
Say he was depressed, possibly psychotic. picks up a blade and goes to a school and kills children because she's in despair about her own life, that kind of thing. But the other thing you see.
Okay, he's talking about the significance of this crime being committed with a knife, and he's talking about the two kinds of crimes, violent crimes, that will be committed with a knife. And the one he just described is your impulse, your anger, strong emotion, impulse, knife wielding crime, a violent crime. And now he's talking about another kind of crime committed by human beings using a knife to inflict harm on others. And this is where that picks up here.
Are people who would choose a knife because of its intimacy with the victims, because of the enormous amount of pain that it would give, because of its possible symbolic sexual quality, because the person sees himself as delivering justice, a kind of a hunter figure who goes in like a mission. And what seems to distinguish between these more impulsive mass murderers and these people that are more psychopathic is that there isn't the impulse component. They methodically monitor, have a grudge, and plan to go in. And what I envision is a person who would treat this evening, this morning, early morning killing, the way we would think about a major event in our lives, like a wedding or having a child or something. It was like D-Day that went in after a period of probably stalking, watching, and committed this act in a kind of an explosion of frenzy, right? But this is not a person who you would picture afterwards to have regret or to say, why did I do this? But a person who would feel a very great deal of satisfaction. We also have to picture an individual who did so probably in the dark, unless he had some kind of military equipment or a headlight on his hat or something. But I think that figures into this too. Because remember, there is no overt sexual quality to this crime. There may be an undertone of it, and was certainly somebody who contributed to the literature meaningfully about how there can be undertones of sexuality in some of these people. But what it looks like is that this might have been motivated more by some kind of anger or grudge or resentment or misogyny or envy, something like that. And somebody who did so after a cool-headed reflection that they wanted to do this. So the sexual component is important because if it's missing, then what you're probably looking at is somebody driven by a wound to the ego.
Okay, now as he just described it about the perpetrator, and again, this is before Bryan Kohberger was even arrested, and I think he hit the nail right on the damn head with this. But that profile, that part of it at least, also describes perfectly, without flaw, Elliot Rodger. Now, this is relevant when we are looking at the Papa Rodger account and going, what's up with that? And what does that mean? What does that mean about, details about this crime that we haven't learned or figured out yet? Because come on, y'all, let's just get real honest with ourselves and each other. We all want to know those details or we wouldn't be here right now, right? It's okay. It's okay. We want to know, and it's okay.
Now, my final point I'll make is that when you have some of these ego-driven killers, you notice that a lot of them do their killing from behind the curtain or in the dark. I think that's very important that this was done in the dark. Think, for example, of the serial killer Robert Hansen, who hunted women in the forest, shooting them from behind in the dark. That's because if they turned around and saw him, he was just a little nobody. But from behind and in the dark, he was everything. He was a god. And I think that's important because for some of these people, like you'll notice that with serial killers, for example, where there's no overt sexual component, a lot of them will do things like write to the police and boast and seek attention and enjoy that they're slithering underneath you like a serpent that could strike at any time. The ego ultimately catches them too. It's their undoing. But the ego drives a lot of it. And I suspect that ego figures very heavily into this case, and that this is somebody who feels he was basically terrifying everybody and enjoys sitting back and saying, now all the women of the world are terrified that I could strike at any time. In other words, this person doesn't know if he is everything or nothing. Is he a god or is he a nobody? But in the dark, committing those crimes, I imagine he felt something like the deliverer of justice.
And oh my God, what he just described there, he's not sure if he's a god or he's a nobody, him committing this crime that's going to give him this grandiose sense of self, at least superficially, yet all along always doubting himself, not being able to face himself or the world around him. Is he a god or is he a nothing? Now, if couldn't be the tagline for all of Bryan Kohberger's writings that we know about when he was younger, I don't know what could be. I mean, this profile is just absolutely brilliant. And again, it's important really to everything we talk about with Bryan Kohberger, but especially we're going to be talking about today and moving forward a little bit with me, at least, because I still have more on this topic that I'm going to fit into this live stream tonight, because it ain't going to be that long, because I've been tired and I got to go to work early tomorrow.
Fascinating.
Sorry,
Thank
I was
you.
muted. But there are some mass murderers that operate in teams, but you can count on a few hands the number of mass murders that are not associated with gangs or criminal enterprise, mafia killings, things like that, where you're going to have more than one offender working together. There are some, usually involving a very psychopathic leader figure and a kind of weaker-willed figure that works alongside them to eliminate a group of people. But I suspect that the essence of this case is the isolation of the offender, the difficulty forming any kind of allegiance or alliance to a human being. So consequently, I am convinced this is probably a lone wolf offender. And I think these questions Anne is raising about the absence.
Oh, and again, how accurate is that? Not being able to form an allegiance to a single human being. Remember, in his writings, he talked about his dad and how good his dad was to him when he was a teenager and a child, and yet he looked at his dad and he didn't feel anything, and he looked at his parents and everyone else like sacks of meat. Good Lord, vegetarian boy.
Since of a lot of of evidence really speaks to the planning and the fact that this is not an impulsive mass murder. And as I was emphasizing earlier, that really alters our profile, because once we're dealing with somebody that planned something like this and went in and did it, carried it out like that, you've got to imagine a person who, in the cool light of reason, could think of doing something like this and carry it out without, and be rational enough in the moment to do something like, for example, did he wear booties or something like, why was he not covered in blood, leaving trail, did he bring a change of clothes? Did he? And I have to tell you, I envision a person who went in there dressed for the occasion. He probably had that knife kind of hanging at his side and kind of wearing stuff to dark clothing. And, I really picture somebody who went in like he was going in for a mission. And, so that, this point about the evidence, I think, has to be explored further. Tells you a lot about the offender, I think.
Interesting. Great.
Well, as I had mentioned earlier, the knife is sometimes chosen in a mass murder because you're dealing with somebody a little more mentally ill who can't access a gun or so. But I think what we're dealing with here is somebody who chose it because of its intimacy with the victims, because of the power that was felt coming close to the victims and kind of jabbing them with this, one might argue, phallic kind of instrument of power, domination, control over the victims. And I would imagine, I'm not sure about this, but having talked to offenders and read about offenders who use knives, that some of these people have a very intimate relationship with this knife. It's like a thing they love. It's an extension of themselves. They've used it sometimes to kill animals or so forth, or cherished it, and I think that the killing with this knife is extremely important. And incidentally, on the subject of hunting, Anne has raised a point previously about this case. I think is an excellent one. Is that this is somebody we would expect to keep something from this, like a trophy, because I think he's very proud of this. As Greg was mentioning earlier, I think like we would keep a memento of a very important event. I could really see this guy cherishing this knife and keeping some memento, so that Anne, can of course speak to this. But one of the suggestions that Anne had made was that if it was possible to do an inventory of what might be missing from that house, it's important because we have no idea what this guy might have kept.
And that is kind of interesting in the fact that we know that Bryan Kohberger did buy a K-bar knife, a sheath, and a sharpener months before the murders with an Amazon gift card that was purchased with a credit card, or rather a debit card that was, his, right? Was he trying to be sneaky there? I think so. Was it in fact sneaky? Yeah, not really. And then later, after the murders were occurred, we know that not only was he viewing K-bar knives, just like the one he murdered with, but he actually put one in his basket, his checkout, his cart, like ready for purchase. I always put stuff in my cart, and then I'm like, no, 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 gotta buy something for somebody else because I got a kid, and so I wish I could buy those things to put in my cart. I really want to buy those things to put in my cart, but I can't all the time. But anyway, I'm not gonna spin out there. So what they're saying right there about the trophy and then Ann Burgess's here. So they're talking about Ann Burgess, famous criminologist, not Ann Taylor. Her suggestion that if they could take an inventory of the house, his house, and what's missing, that would be very interesting. Was he looking to replace, that sheath, or the knife and the sheath that he knew investigators might eventually learn about if they ever got close to him? I think that was probably the case. I think that, yes, he did want to kill again, but I don't think that he necessarily was like, I have to get the exact K-bar knife to kill again. Maybe he wanted that again, just with Dr. Brucato talking about the possible attachment to these, weapons. But I think it was more about covering his ass. He realized he screwed up right after the murders. And I think he, from the moment he nearly got in an accident when he left that house, he was in cover my ass mode.
But I think he chose that knife because this is a cold-blooded, calculating kind of an individual who went in with the idea to inflict a lot of pain, a lot of horror, and an intimate kind of a style of killing. I happen to be very interested in this roughly 12% of mass murderers that prove to actually be serial killers. And it's important to understand that when you're looking at mass murder, the vast majority of people who commit it are people who are emotionally overwhelmed by a life event, like a loss of a job or school or a loved one or whatever, because these are individuals whose entire identity tends to be rooted in one thing that gives a sort of scope to who they are, a purpose of, and they lose it and sort of explode. They, and sometimes express envy that other people have things that they don't. But there is this sort of subset of mass murders, and I think.
I'm sorry. Wait a minute. I just Loco Jazz Hand says maybe he'll get laid in murder, and maybe he'll get laid in prison. That's so funny because I was just thinking we need some merch. It's like a T-shirt that's something about like Bryan Kohberger and. Looking for Big Bubba and soap on a rope. I don't know. We've got to do something. But yeah, he'll probably get laid in prison. He will. In fact, you know what? I'm going to be hopeful. I'm hopeful. I think I'm also being realistic. He'll probably get laid a lot in prison. Good for you, Bryan. Good for you. Okay, so we know that Gary Brucato is brilliant. He's going to just continue to expound on his theories a little bit, but he already talked about the basis of his psychological and personality profile for the assailant. And my gosh, he and both Ann Burgess could not have been absolutely more spot on. So, kudos to them. And it's important to the entire world's understanding of who he is. Let me just see. Okay, big clue. Oh, yeah. Okay, hold it. I'm talking to myself right now. Don't mind. Okay. Such interesting things learned from the various people that were interviewed about Bryan Kohberger. And I'm talking about the ones that were interviewed, before, recently, I guess. Oh, wait, put before. Sirius Black said something about the people who will not refuse to believe that dude was guilty. I just have to read you. I just saw this pop up on my phone. I don't often even comment on other creators' posts and things like that, but it was right on the top of my phone. I read it and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm taking the bait. Let's go with this. And now I have to say it is from the creator Justice A through Z. Love saves lives. She is here a lot. She's become a friend of mine. She always says it's my fault that she started a channel because I encouraged her to. She wanted to, and I thought that she'd be great at it. And she always tried to do what you really want to do, right? So please know it is no offense to her. And she and I both know very well that we do not agree on anything, as it relates to this case. In fact, we've been on the phone talking about it at times, and if we weren't over the phone line, I probably would have strangled her, because I don't know, got really frustrating. Don't know why. It's just how it is. She believes that Bryan Kohberger was framed. She believes that the other BK, I'm not even going to say his name because people have been so disrespectful to him, I just don't say it on this channel, was involved in the murders. She believed that, the police were dirty in this, that there was cover-ups and planning of things, and I'm sure she could tell you more about it. Are you here, Justice A through Z? She could possibly be, but I don't think she comes to my Idaho or Bryan Kohberger live streams very much, because, again, we just know that we don't have that chemistry. No, not at all. Yeah. That's all about that. But let me bring, this is just like more like a little comic relief, guys, and also a little bit interesting. I think this is what you're talking about, Sirius Black. Let me know, and the rest of you as well. Yeah, this is just, let's just take a look at this. This is just a little detour here. And again, Justice A through Z, love you, girl, but you know how it is. Sometimes love hurts. I guess that's all I can say. All right. So she says, pictures of Bryan, take this in carefully. All right, y'all. Pictures of Bryan Kohberger in the media seem very contrived and cultivated to make him appear psycho and creepy. It even looks like someone colored in his bizarre brows. You almost can't even find an image, the image on the right. Well, that's because it's from DeSales University and it's copy or trademarked or whatever by them. It's been practically scrubbed from the internet. I Googled it right after I read this, though, and I found it all over the place. It's things like this that make me wonder what is really going on here. So, she said these photos are contrived and cultivated to make him appear psycho and creepy. So here are the pictures, and I think probably some of you know me well, and you probably know exactly what I had to say to that. So just let me find my response first. My initial response. I said, my thoughts are perhaps he is psycho and creepy and is one of those people whose exterior accurately reflects what's inside. As you know, Z, I think they already got it right on this one, because sometimes they do. I'm talking about the authorities. They do, after all, the guilty plea and all. Oh my gosh, that's like a really big typo. Oh no. Oh, after the guilty plea, I feel safe in saying, never mind. Anyone who could murder those beautiful young people is indeed psycho and creepy and a whole lot more. So to me, that all makes total sense. More than any other true crime case I've studied recently. So, she's saying, people are making these photos. They're making him look psycho and creepy, but he's not. No, dude, he looks psycho and creepy because he is psycho and creepy. And it really is hard for me to understand how so many very smart people do not make that connection. So I'm just going to read a few of the other comments. There's only a few, so it won't take that long, but this person says, absolutely, this is not over yet. Much more to this story. Well, I do agree on that, but not in the way that these people are thinking. I truly believe a lot has been swept under the rug by the powers that be. Okay. Now someone else says, I don't understand how some very popular true crime creators are blindly accepting his guilt. She means accepting. I'm losing respect for them. Don't they know what an obvious setup this is? I had to reply to that. I said, I'm not being confrontational at all. I'm just truly curious. Is everyone who is accepting that he is guilty blindly accepting he's guilty? It is clear that he is guilty, and I have been parsing through every speck of evidence and so much more. On the flip side, I guess, it's really hard for me to understand how very intelligent people fully believe, so it seems, that he was somehow set up. I would love to understand that. And man, wouldn't I? Or maybe I wouldn't, but I'm not sure. I do know it's a great mystery. And then someone else just says, hey, Jazz, something weird is happening here. And then this person said, and I had to reply to this too, he accepted the plea deal. If it was a much lesser crime, I could understand it, but I don't understand why he would accept it due to this. Huh? I'm not inclined to believe him when he says I'm guilty 4 times. And I said, why in the world wouldn't you believe him? He pleaded guilty to murdering 4 people, and all the evidence shows that he did. What is there to not believe? This is so confusing to me. That was my comment. And then the last person says, I have been zoned in on this, my very first case on YouTube, by the way, since the case happened. There's something so wrong about Idaho. I'm still with you, but I don't listen to anything political anymore. It's not good for me. I feel the same way about that. So that was just our little detour there to, indulge our shared curiosity among most of the people here, about the WTAF of all of this. You know what I'm saying, man? So, hi, Auntie. I'm sorry, Andy Mundy. Hi, how are you doing? And for a day, welcome. Faraday. Gosh, I got to get closer to my screen or turn up the brightness, actually. Sorry, I didn't mean to pronounce your names wrong. I hate when I do that. Pump the brakes. I saw you come in earlier. Welcome. How are you doing, too? Whoops. Chloe says, I spent my entire career in criminal defense, switching full-time to teaching evidence and trial. Homeboy is one of the most guilty people I've ever come across. Well, amen to that. My experience in law is that I got a full scholarship to law school and I dropped out halfway through because I wanted to go teach yoga. Youth is wasted on me. Oh, boy. So Andy Mundy says, what form of trial or evidence will we have now? Will there even be a long trial set now? Well, hopefully it's going to be up to the state what they release in the discovery. And, there is somewhat, an obligation under law for the state to share, if it no longer needs to be sealed for privacy purposes. Technically, this is how I read the legislation. They should be releasing in the discovery of the public, but it doesn't mean they will. How do families feel with these new developments? Maybe a money-saving exercise bigger than OJ. Yeah, I know. All of that's out there. Yeah. Let's see. All right. So, okay. Now, coming back from our little detour there, I just had to. Just want you to listen to... You know what? I'm going to skip the next thing because I got to get moving on this. This next channel, I'm going to play an excerpt from one of their videos. It was just recently put out, and it is True Crime Rocket Science. He's the first channel I ever watched about the Watts case, by the way. Long, long ago, before I was even considering YouTube. I didn't even know I was finding him on YouTube. I found him through an internet search, and then whatever. I didn't connect those dots. That's how much I knew about YouTube before I became a creator. Like most of his videos these days, I agree with some of it and I disagree with some of it. And a lot of times the stuff I disagree with, he's basically insisting that you must think this way. And I don't like that. But what he says here in this video was reading my mind. So I want to play that. And then we're going to go into reading all of the Papa Rodger posts and comments. If you haven't yet, please maybe share the link. I would be forever grateful. At least for today, I'll be grateful. Maybe forever too. No, really, I appreciate you guys so much. And it really does mean a lot. And I do very much appreciate it. Let's see. I was just kind of picking on myself. When someone says, I'll forever be grateful for a lot of the things people say that about, you're going to forget it tomorrow.
And one of them literally said that when he spoke to Kohberger didn't stop talking. So he quickly learned to avoid talking to him altogether. Talking a lot, sometimes referred to as over-talking, especially to strangers, is a sign of an extremely isolated and often lonely individual. In the class setting, we know that there was an over-talking incident as well, which turned out so bad Kohberger's listener
Chloe, I just want to say I have a shit ton of FOIAs out there too, to put it eloquently, and mine have been bouncing back as well. I feel like it's going to be a really exciting moment when that changes, but it hasn't yet. Has any of has any of that changed for you? Because for me, it's just been like it's been a stone wall consistently ever since I started putting in FOIAs. I mean, at the very beginning, I've gotten a few things back after other people did. So, I just got what everyone else got, which is oftentimes how it happens. But then at some point, it was like, forget about it.
Fled, and she accused him of mansplaining. She actually fled the room. Other kids were fed up with his insensitive and or inappropriate anti-LGBTQ remarks as well. And in the ordinary academic space, so many kids were annoyed with Kohberger's strict marking that it literally led to an intervention, what we refer to on this channel as bad teachergate, which is a similarly powerful triggering event as the critical Nutgate incident in the Chris Watts case. Nutgate preceded the Watts family murders by about 5 weeks. We have no way of knowing the time span between bad teachergate and November 13th. I did actually reach out to Stinchfield on Instagram, haven't heard back from him, but it was likely to have been within 4 months. Now, in order for the students to realize a pattern of unfair marking and discover collectively that it was bad enough, that he was a bad enough teacher to lodge a protest over, one imagines it might have occurred close to the middle of the first semester. In other words, they get their books, they get their study plans. There is a little bit of studying that goes on. There is a certain amount of lecturing going on, and then they tested on it. And then Kohberger grades them unfairly, and then that's repeated. That pattern had to have occurred 2 or 3 times, perhaps more, in order for the students to feel not happy about that. Does that make sense? So it's unlikely, I think, that it happened right in the middle.
Okay, he just goes into so much detail about things, and that's great. But sometimes I'm like, dude, this detail doesn't matter. Move on. Let's get the relevant stuff. And I'm sure some people watching my live streams especially feel that way too. So stay la vie, right? Now, I just want to point that out. How, Kohberger came in, the students hated him right away. A lot of them decided he was weird, but mostly because he graded really hard. And one student who was interviewed, that I was going to just play that video, but again, I got to move forward because I always overplan my live streams, as I tell y'all. So I'm just going to let you know what he said. He said that Kohberger told the class, I'm just grading you to a higher standard. I'm not grading unfairly. I'm just grading you to a higher standard. Keep that in mind. Okay. And the student said, well, we didn't feel like he was grading us to a higher standard, but maybe the standard he would expect of himself as a grad school student. Now, this whole bit about Kohberger grading them really harshly, according to everyone, and saying, I want to hold you to a higher standard. I think that is really important right there. First of all, I don't know if it really was his place to be holding them to a higher standard. After all, the course was being taught by a tenured professor, a tenured resident professor, and he was a TA bitch. For him to decide to grade really harshly, to hold students who are just getting their feet wet, and this was a law program, criminology and law program, I don't know if it's up to him to hold them to a higher standard. I think this also speaks about Bryan Kohberger's personality and his his absolute passionate love with his own intellect and what he fancies that to be. So evolved, so refined, so vast, so worldly, all that crap, So just keep that in mind. It's important.
In the beginning of June, July, and more like comment. You can also hit the thanks button if you're enjoying this coverage, and let's get started. So if he was humiliated by his own classmates, own students, own peers, also by in a strange way by his professors, what did they think about him? Also by his neighbors who are sort of avoiding him. Literally everyone he seemed to approach. He may have felt Pullman is kaput, as a place to try to make friends. And this led him to seek greener pastures in Moscow. Does that make sense? Now, I think on its own, if he simply went to Moscow and things didn't work out there, you might say no big deal. But if things were preceded by a sort of social death in Pullman, just imagine how devastating it had to feel to go even further afield and get exactly the same result. Not interested.
So, whatever it is that you're offering, we're not into it. Don't care. Couldn't care less. Goodbye.
Now, he's saying here that maybe, Kohberger went to Moscow, Idaho from Pullman, Washington, because he just like fucked up so majorly in Pullman on all social and, just relating to other human beings levels that he had to he burnt out his pastures. He ate everything that was green and there wasn't anything left. He burnt everyone around him out. So he thought, hey, maybe there'll be some green pastures in Moscow so I can go, eat every last morsel of grass. And so there's nothing left for anyone else. I feel like that's how his personality was, right? So that makes sense in some regard. But listen, this is one of the areas where I really do draw a parallel and a connection. And what I'm just about to say here is a really shallow, take on it between Bryan Kohberger and Elliot Rodger. And that is, the sorority girls, the sorority atmosphere, the college town, the party people, the beautiful ones. I think that, Elliot Rodger, and I got to be careful because YouTube gets really pissed off when I just say the name, had a deep disgust, contempt, and hatred, obviously pathologically so, for, lovely young people who were doing normal young, lovely people things like socializing and drinking and going to, being together in Greek life, if that's what they choose to do. Or, the worst sin that they could commit of all was to walk down the street holding hands with one another, because then Elliot Rodger would cry and he'd start to imagine them having sex that night, and he would go in a bathroom stall somewhere and cry and then go spill a drink on them. That's what he always did. And now in that way, I think he's very different than Bryan Kohberger, because Elliot Rodger, homeboy, you needed to have some freaking hormone therapy or something, because he was so emotional and sensitive. It was way it was 15 bridges past normal existence. And he cried all the time when he would hear about other people his age who weren't virgins, or think about couples where there was a beautiful woman in his mind involved and they might have sex later. It would make him go into hysterics and cry. And I don't think Bryan Kohberger, I don't know, I would be willing, if I had to make a bet, and this is what we're wagering, or this is what we're betting on. Did Bryan Kohberger, has he ever cried in his life ever? I am willing to bet the answer is no. Bryan Kohberger knew he himself had no emotions. He wrote about it extensively, as far as we know, at least when he was a teenager. I bet there's a lot more there. I mean, people, after all, are sacks of meat. So that's an area where the two differ vastly. And I just wanted to say that there. Are you interested in that stuff? Because I'm incorporating that into my next video. Please give me some feedback so I know what the hell to do for you guys, because I love you.
Now imagine this. If bad Teachergate never happened, perhaps Kohberger would never have found himself with excess time on his hands, lurking around the funhouse late at night, looking for other companionship beyond Pullman, with nothing better to do. If bad Teachergate never happened, possibly Kohberger would not have relapsed either, in a purely psychological sense, going back down a dark downward spiral, or perhaps falling back on smack, tar, hell dust, china white, thunder, snow, brown sugar, also known as chasing the dragon, or both. Perhaps he went back down in a psychological spiral, and with that fell back into relapse in other ways as well. I do think it's fair to say whatever alleged criminal psychology was brewing, it would not have been percolating in the first place if Kohberger had found himself glued to some sort of social substrate whether it was nice neighbors, nice colleagues, or simply random kids he encountered and developed some sort of bond with. Kohberger's dad knew he needed it, knew he needed help. His mother apparently was terrified that he might not be able to adjust, and perhaps he didn't, because he couldn't. So if we tie together the threads of A, bad Teachergate, B, the unanswered Instagrams, and which happened in late October, and C, Kohberger's backstory as a lonely, bullied misfit and heroin addict during high school, then we possibly have the vital strands we need to connect a deteriorating incel-like psychology in June to the events in November, where because both communities basically seemed to, or it felt like to him, that they gave him the finger, well, he wanted some kind of payback. You heard the expert at the beginning talking about revenge. Well, what kind of revenge? Well, this kind of revenge. Revenge for being humiliated, not just here and now and throughout the semester, but a kind of almost a lifetime's worth of revenge, a lifetime's worth of humiliation.
And I think the creator is spot on there. Tell me what you guys think. I mean, I definitely think that this crime that he committed was very much about revenge, about never being able to have what he wanted. Very similar to Elliot Rodger, and yeah, absolutely spot on. Whereas Elliot Rodger knew that he was going to end his life after he did the massacre that he did. And he probably had no choice because he would have gotten taken down by a police officer. Whereas Bryan Kohberger, I think he truly did fancy he would never get caught. And I wonder if in that way, that Elliot Rodger knew he was going to commit this massacre, but knew he had to end his own life. Like, could Bryan Kohberger have seen that as, oh, Elliot, my boy, you were doing so good, but why'd you have to end it like that? And Bryan Kohberger, I think just thinking he is, like on God's like mightiest cloud up there, like seated at the right hand of Christ and such, that he, would never get caught and he'd fool everyone, particularly due to, as I mentioned before, his absolutely superior intellect, right? So could that be where the name Papa Rodger came from? Like, some kind of connection to Elliot Rodger, but Papa Rodger, because like, let me school you, son, or like, I'm going to do better because, I'm your dad. I don't know. Or Papa, just in kind of the more like slang term, like, like, I love it when you call me Big Papa. You know what I'm saying?
So perhaps he wanted some payback. And perhaps his interest in criminology, perhaps binge watching Dharma in late September, would have allowed those feelings to really marinate. And all this ultimately put him on a conveyor belt that took him down a dark path of least resistance. So the number 8 clue we all missed was appreciating just how crucially important bad Teachergate was as a milestone, as a psychological milestone that sort of paved the way for everything that followed. It was something that made Bryan feel humiliated in a setting that was supposed to edify him, supposed to feel good studying to be a PhD. Instead, he felt undermined and thus emasculated on his home campus. We know that he did an about turn after that as well. It's not as though it was water off a duck's back. He did an about turn, switching to high grades universally and kind of losing interest in self-care, personal grooming, and also losing interest in interacting with his students. And in terms of his grading, not really interacting much in that respect either. Now, having said all that, I think think about this deafening silence that has started to surround this case in one particular area. Do you know what I'm talking about? Now, compare that to the following. Think about all the folks we have heard about, all the folks that have broken their silence, besides the victim's parents, besides the victim's friends. Think about Kohberger's neighbors upstairs and downstairs. A student of his, Hayden Stinchfield, who told us about bad Teachergate. We heard from him. We heard from a bartender at the nearest bar to his apartment. We heard from a receptionist at a nearby medical center and her boss and his hairdresser.
Now, see, the question he's going to ask here is, but why didn't we hear from any of Bryan Kohberger's PhD professors. And then he actually tries to answer the question. Let me tell you why, homie. It's called FERPA. FERPA. FERPA is an anagram. FERPA is a federal education something or other privacy. Oh, Federal Education Rights to Privacy Act. My God. Hey, if my boss is watching, I know all about FERPA. Don't you worry. I know I got it. Federal Education Rights to Policy Act. It's either his doctoral professors and advisors. Now remember, he just started his doctoral program months before he committed these heinous murders. So he was still in the same semester as in which any of his current PhD academic people knew him or met him. Okay, gag order, FERPA, they are not at liberty to talk. They are not at liberty to talk about him. So let me just go past that. But I think we're just about the end. But I have to go get a drink of water because I'm about to read you all of the Elliot Rodger posts. Yeah, baby, it's happening.
And then on the Moscow side, neighbors to professors. Did they see what was happening? Did they see something coming? Were they aware that something was going on with Bryan? Do they bear any responsibility at all? I mean, we are talking about criminology here. Now, even if you say Bryan does, he bears all total responsibility. Isn't it interesting that literally everyone has spoken up, volunteered information, except Bryan's family and the criminology professors at Pullman? I mean, this is their field, isn't it? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.
Oops, so sorry. I was getting my drink of water and this ended. Just one moment here. My son had a bunch of friends over. Someone they listened to dropped an album yesterday. So he had like a listening party and he had like 6 of his friends over and I got him pizza and stuff. I was really happy about that because he's a little socially anxious. So it was a good day. It was a good day. But they drank all of my bottled water. So I had to figure out something else. And it's called get it out of the faucet, right? Okay. So let me read a couple comments here and then we're going to go into the Elliot Rodger posts. It was confusing trying to put them all together. Because listen, when people took screenshots of the Facebook discussion group where Paparazzo, oh gosh, getting the names confused, where Paparazzo posted, people took them from their own account. So, even people within a discussion group can block one another and such. So who knows, maybe people were blocked from seeing some comments or vice versa, whatever. And then also, of course, and most importantly, any screenshots that exist were taken on, different days at different moments. And in that sense, Facebook discussion group is a living entity, so to speak, and content can constantly be added, deleted, and modified. Obviously, the comparing the screenshots from this Facebook discussion group as we're trying to figure out what the heck was going on with Paparazzo. Obviously they're not going to be completely consistent, but then, the more annoying thing to consider is those jackasses that get involved in these true crime cases and make fake content. You guys are a bunch of motherfuckers and you really need to get a life. And that's what concerns me the most because, if it's just a matter of different perspective, like different people taking screenshots at different times and, with different levels of access, whatever, like we can work through that. But, the people that are just doing dirty really just need to, I don't know, stop. Okay. All right. Oh yes. And the Amazon Prime series came out too. And oh God, along the lines of the post from my friend Justice A through Z, where those people are like, oh, I don't know why he pled guilty. He's not guilty. Oh God. I did break and watch some of my least favorite content creators that have been super annoying to me for a long time because most of them get really nasty with me because Like, I'm not a pro-burger, I guess. And I just had to get it out of my system. I just couldn't even believe the words coming out of their mouths. Shame on you all. Shame on you. You're making all that fake content too, aren't you? I'm just going to start to call you Joseph Morris. How's that? Gross. Okay. And hey, Valerie, how are you doing, sweetheart? It's good to see you. True Crime Loser. Hey, Cyberpunk, how's it going? True Crime Loser has an awesome video about Crime Circus getting the Kohberger was framed, an innocent thing done wrong. Yeah, it's funny. People have been commenting on that in comments lately, and I feel the same. Like, I like True Crime Circus. I felt like he did a really good job trying to bring out the truth and the evidence, fact based, and then all of a sudden he took a turn. And I think I see where it is as far as. And I'm sorry to say this, drip drop dude, but the analytics on your channel support it. Okay, there was a point where the anti-Kohberger musings caught on fire for him, and then he started going in a different direction than he had gone before. And maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I am, drip drop, but what we call that is selling out, and it's too bad. Drip drop, honey, you're better than that. What about baby drip drop? Gross. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, the bathroom pic is horrid. It's really, yeah. Yeah, he does look like a vampire, totally. Okay. Let's see. Let me just go through it. Look at the rest of the comments. Sirius Black says, what's the obsession? True crime? Preach, girl. You are so right about that. It is absolutely sickening and so infuriating. Yeah, I mean, there's really nothing that disgusts me more. Chris Watts ordered from Papa. Oh, Papa. Oh, okay. We're making the Papa connection. Papa Joe's before he did the unthinkable. Yeah, I think that's what you're doing. That's funny. Okay, clowns, right. All right. Okay, man, let's do this. Oh, my throat hurts a little bit. Okay, I can do it. I'm getting myself psyched up for reading all this. Woo! Okay. Actually, you know what? I've got to reopen this. So I was gonna play this after. Let me just bring in super short Ashley Banfield the other day. Listen, I know everyone's talking about Papa Rodger and the Reddit survey, and they talked about it before and like whatnot. But Sirius Black, I think you know this. I think you're one of the people that I've like kind of talked to about this. I remember at some point people were like, "Who are Ashley Banfield's like sources?" And people who I didn't even know from my channel were like, "It's What's the Obsession?" I was like, "Ashley girl, you be watching my stuff again?" And I don't usually think that because I get us in true crime. We talk about the same topics among us because they're the ones that are naturally interesting. They rise and fall. And like, I get that, but there's something different. So, but it's okay. I love you, Ashley. And your hair looks amazing, girl. All right, let me bring this in. So she's talking to a student who was part of some documentary I'd seen before. In fact, I think I included a tiny little excerpt of him saying something, just how surprised he was that Bryan Kohberger was the person arrested for these horrible crimes in my own documentary, which did I mention? I'm redoing it to update it, and I'm excited about it. And I'm actually suggesting you watch it because I think it's good. So here's what he has to say, and then I'll get that Papa Rodger post thing up. I told you Ashley's hair looking good.
If you look back now, do you recognize anything in the patterns of the killings that he has now confessed to? Even though I understand, Josh, we don't have all the details, we have a fairly good idea of what he did to carry out these heinous acts. But do you recognize anything in the patterns of what he did at 1122 King Road as compared to the things that you all were being taught, the things you were learning about other terrible killers?
Yeah, you kind of mentioned it earlier with Elliot Rodger. And something I said in a prior interview with God knows who was that in these classes, we go over many times how in the digital age, these people will try to relive that fantasy. Digital age, physical age, doesn't matter, but they're oftentimes going to go back to that crime scene. And one way to...
Now, this is important. He's saying, those people that commit murders, they will go in the digital age, he started to say, they're going to go back and they're going to revisit that fantasy, those memories, that experience they had, that elation that they had. And murdering people, man, that's freaking good times. It's so hard to get, isn't it? Even when you understand like the psychology of it and the pathology of it, it's so hard to try to imagine that you could actually think like that, right? I hope you're saying yes. And if you're saying no, you might just be very kind of empathetic and flexible. But if you're saying no, and then you're like, and I want to go try that, call me. We'll get you some help. Okay, so he's saying that, we know that, murderers will go back and they'll visit the scene. They'll want to relive that moment. They get like this rush, this incredible rush apparently from it. And that's what's up with that. So now he's talking about, but also in the digital age, this is what we learned in our classes that we went together, because I forgot to mention here, he's a classmate of Bryan Kohberger from DeSale University master's program.
To go back to the crime scene is to go to a pseudonym like Papa Rodger and enter a community and relive that high. That is something we went over in depth, and kind of, if it does come out ever that he is Papa Rodger, would say that's pretty shocking, just because that's very silly to involve yourself back into the crime and leave a digital footprint instead of, being physically there. But we also know that he had went back in that morning, so he might have done both.
Do you think, Josh, that Bryan Coberger is Papa Rodger, who showed up in those crime discussion groups after the murders?
Until someone else stands up and says that it was them, absolutely. I don't see any reason to say that it wasn't him. The pseudonym Papa Rodgers in connection with Elliot Rodgers makes a lot of sense, especially if he did idolize him as, the king of the incel community and wanted to do it, even better, pay homage to his name and what he had done in the past. And I haven't seen anything online or anywhere that says that he isn't, or definitively that he is. So it's all speculative, of course, right now, but it would not surprise me in the slightest if, to relive that high, he entered that community just to feel everything that he felt that night again.
Pretty uncanny, the profile picture and the icon picture in the Papa Rodger. Right? I mean, when I first saw it, I thought, well, that's a dead ringer right there, and what a stupid mistake. But then again, Bryan Kohberger made a lot of stupid mistakes if he thought he was so smart at committing the perfect crime. One last quick question for you, Josh. As a student of criminology, do you think you'll ever reach out to Bryan Kohberger to try to ask him questions or learn more about why he did what he did?
Would I?
Yeah.
No, that's not my place. I mean, you leave that to Dr. Ramsland and the professionals. I run a swim school now. I have nothing to do with criminal justice.
Now, I want to say that Dr. Ramsland, in her interview with Bryan, and I don't know if you guys caught this, he asked, would you interview Bryan Kohberger? Would you, and she said, what her answer was, yeah, if he wanted to, if he wants to, we're going to do it. It's on, basically. And then she went on is like her why. She expounded on the importance of, like she said, Bryan and asked her, did you see any signs? Did he fool you? She just said that he was like an excellent, a good student, very gracious, always said thank you, very polite. She did say, now looking back on his specific interests, it causes me great pause, but she couldn't say what those were because of FERPA. Federal Education Rights Protection Act. I know what that is, boss. Don't worry. But she did say, yeah, I mean, the way she answered it almost to me seemed like signaling to Kohberger, even though I know she's talking to his family and she can get a message right to him if she wants to. But I think it was reinforcement signaling to Kohberger, like, hey, boy, when you're ready, let's do this. So I think we can be expecting an analysis of Bryan Kohberger's, a psychological forensic perspective from Ann Ramsland. I'm sorry, my God, not Ann. There's Ann Taylor, there's Ann Burgess, but there's Katherine Ramsland. after she does her interviews with Bryan Kohberger, much like she did with BTK, Confessions of a Killer, right? Right. All right. So let me bring this out. Let me know if anybody does want to come up on panel. I'm going to put the link in chat. And why am I doing that right now? Because I know I'm going to be reading a lot of words. And sometimes I just, especially this time of night, have to stop. My voice gets weak. And I do want to hear what you have to say in your voice, not just in chat. Absolutely. And sometimes I forget to put that link there when I really want to. But also it's a little easier for me if someone else is up here too. I'm not guilting you into anything. Don't worry. There's no guilt here. You can just take. I'll give. Don't worry. No, I'm totally kidding, guys. I'm totally kidding. I don't see it that way at all. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it is creepy as hell. It all is. I don't know what you're specifically talking about, but oh, Loco Jazz Hands. Okay, Bryan isn't. Oh, this is perfect. Going into the Paparazzo posts and comments. Loco Jazz Hand says Bryan is now the expert, just like Ted Bundy. He is getting what he wanted with all the publicity. I wish he didn't take the plea. I totally agree with you. Andy Andy, is it Monday or Andy Mundy says Ramsland is quite flippant and can be a bit of a know-it-all sounding. I do agree with you. I wasn't going to say that because I didn't know if it was just me. Sometimes it's a me problem, you know? Yeah, I get that vibe too. Not a Ramsland fan, says KDP. Okay, I actually haven't talked about this with you guys, and neither is Cuff You. Okay, so that is just, okay, it's not just me. It's not just a me problem. All right. Okay. Oh, Cuff You's coming up. God bless your soul, love. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
You're in rare form tonight. We're all loving it.
Oh, good. Good. I like it.
It's fun.
Oh, God.
I'm so excited about the Paparazzo stuff, though, because I haven't seen all of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm telling you, and I know you probably saw my comment earlier, or somebody did. I'm like, this case has me like gripped now.
Yeah,
I'm like,
I know. I did see that. Yeah. I
I'm
know,
just
I
like,
get it, man.
yeah, I'm just like all over it. I mean, I realize basically it's over. He pled, kind of, until we get, the FOIA stuff. But I'm just like, I'm just all caught up in it. It's like I'm reading everything I possibly can. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I hear you, my friend. I hear you. I definitely always have been with this case, and he stopped doing content on it, for reasons I think I've already talked about there. Just after, I brought the Ethan's two friends into it, and people started getting really nasty about that, and it just became too ugly for me to talk about. But I still, even though I haven't been doing content on it, I was never not following it to the degree that I always was. You know what I mean? So
right. Yeah.
I'm happy. There's so much I have to say now because I took like a 9-10 month break. So
well, let me ask you something. Why is everybody so opposed to this Paparazzo stuff coming out? I'm curious about that. Like you
I think it's the Prosecutor's that are opposed to it.
Okay. All right. I was just curious.
Because they don't think, I mean, if I were to read you, or you can read, you can read them streamlined too, because you're a moderator. So the comments on the video that I put out, it was like people are pissed at me. I mean, and they're just like, but they're like, oh my God, you're so fucking stupid. What an imbecile. What an idiot. You need to do your research. You know what you're talking about, and whenever somebody's talking like that, I know, like, I know the topic that I hit on, what it's like. But, to say that Bryan Kohberger is Paparazzo obviously admits that he is guilty, clearly. Right. And so the stories, if you have a chance to look through those comments, these stories that I come up with regarding Paparazzo and possible, questions that people have that seem to link him to Bryan Kohberger, the reasoning they come up with for it is absolutely fucking ridiculous. Like, a few people have said this account, the original Paparazzo account, because we know that there are a few copycat accounts after that.
Well, I know it now. I did not know that, but
well, the people also cite as being the original Paparazzo account, like, oh no, he was posting as of yesterday. No, you dumbasses. It's called a copycat.
I saw two of those earlier today, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute.
But, no, we have looked into it. I don't know. So maybe once people got one over me, I don't know. But people are saying, so a lot of people are saying, I noticed this particular theory and ones like it, that the original Papa Rodger account was established and, started interacting in that Facebook group in order to frame Bryan Kohberger. I'm like, how? That makes my head spin.
Yeah. I hadn't heard that either. Yeah.
Wait, so I don't. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. So
yeah, I mean, it's just so interesting. I don't know, but I'm telling you right now, the last one you did on Papa Rogers, I completely 100% believe it's him. It's him.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad that the information in that video was, clear enough for you to feel that way.
It really was. Yeah.
Good.
And the page 118 thing is fascinating.
It is. And, and I don't feel 100% sure that it is the Elliot Rodger manifesto, page 118, because that it says in the discovery that it's a book that was taken out of Bryan Kohberger's Please with page 118 underlined, and the manifesto isn't really a book, but man, if that page 118 of the manifesto doesn't fit, I don't know what does.
It does.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it fits. It's crazy. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm loving it. Anyway, I didn't interrupt you because I'm so excited to hear these texts or these posts.
You're good. So a lot of them, okay, so here, I'm going to have to go just like a little slow with it because I have a few different sources that I'm pulling from to make sure that I'm reading you all the good ones. And that was when I really got befuddled by the, different times when people were taking these screenshots and trying to match everything up. But I think I got them all. So all right, I'm just going to start reading them. Okay. So let me bring it in. Oh, it is in. Okay. Hold it. I'm going to clear things off because I'm going to actually try to clip this and make a video out of it. Cause I don't want to have to read through all of it again. Okay. Get rid of that. And then what else do I have to do? Take my banner down. And, as I've been putting in the banner, you can do Cash App or PayPal, and the address is right there, like a super chat. Because YouTube, YouTube just keeps taking more. Other creators are doing that. Some of the moderators encourage me to do that because it really is just so weird, so not creator friendly how that's going. So I just finally did make that an option. So, and it's actually worked quite well. And I can, I will read out this super chat if it comes through PayPal or Cash App, just like I would if it was on the screen. So yeah. Okay. And then somebody needs to make some software. Some of you tech people out there, how about this? I think you'll make it kill them. Let's do it. You can probably get together real quick, just maybe overnight, whatever. I want to use it though. I will be your beta. Where people can do super chats through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, whatever. And it links to YouTube. So I can just click on it and send it right to my YouTube channel. So it actually will show up right on the screen, like a YouTube endorsed, founded, owned, stole your soul and your firstborn child, how YouTube does to creators.
I think you can do that because channels do it, but I don't know how.
Oh.
Yeah, it'll pop up. Yeah, they can make it pop up.
Oh.
So there's a way. I have no idea how.
Why do I never figure these things out? Okay, no, I do really, but I did not know that. All right, so I guess maybe somebody already cashed in on that idea. Sorry, tech creators. I'll come up with another one for you tomorrow, I promise. All right, okay, so I'm going to read these, okay? Everyone ready?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the University of Idaho murder case discussion group. And okay, so for example, this first post was posted on November 30th, 2022. So when we're looking at this screenshot of it, because I know that, I don't know why it's showing up this way. But anyway, it was the first post. And this account posted from November 30th until my birthday, December 30th, which also happened to be the day that Bryan Kohberger was arrested. This account in the original form did not post after. Now, one of the administrators for this discussion group claims, I spoke to her a long time ago, that Papa Rodger started getting really freaking weird and they decided he is a no-go. We got to get rid of him. And they blocked him, removed him from the discussion group. From there, apparently, so the story goes, he made his own discussion group. And she says he has 6 members or whatever, six people following him. But then after December 30th, it didn't go anywhere because there was no activity on it again. I have checked this so many times exhaustively. I feel certain that's how it went, although I know there's a lot of rumors that he's been posting as recently as 30 seconds ago. Not true. Okay, so he says, of the evidence released, the murder weapon has been consistent as a large fixed blade knife. This leads me to believe they found the sheath. The evidence was released prior to autopsies. So right off the bat in his first post, he's saying that, hey man, when the police said that the weapon was a large fixed blade knife, they didn't even do the autopsies yet. So how did they know that? I'm a really smart poster in this discussion group, so let me think. Maybe law enforcement knew that because a knife sheath was left at the scene.
Right.
Who the fuck actually thought that other than this dude? Nobody.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah.
All right. So then, and again, this can be a little cumbersome.
I mean, I think it was so ballsy that he even put the word sheath in that post.
Yeah, I mean, ballsy, stupid, however we want to
Yeah,
look
both.
at it, right?
I mean, yeah. Arrogant,
You know,
I guess.
yeah, I mean, like it's just, it's crazy. But I mean, just that one post alone almost like does it for you. But then when you start to look at the other things, it's like, damn. Okay. So then a poster said they haven't found the weapon.
Oh my
and
God.
Papa Rodger says exactly.
Wow.
Now, here's something I want you to notice as we're going through this. What is the percent of Bryan Kohberger's questions versus his comments that end in period? And then of his comments that end in period and aren't a question posed to the group, how many of them are a response like this? Like, exactly, excellent, good job, good work.
Right.
And I'm gonna have more to say about that later, but I just want you to notice up front.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I'm gonna move forward a little to a different thing. Oops. Again, I'm pulling from a couple sources, so I'm sorry if it's a little choppy, but it was really the only way I could figure out how to do it because it was confusing to put this together. All right. And I don't usually get confused. Well, sometimes I do, but I get over it real quick. I'm like, I'm not, I'm good like that, but this was confusing. So somebody says, I heard they found a sheath under one of the bodies. What if this really was him? So now this is the perspective of people commenting after Bryan Kohberger was arrested, but these are people that had been in the group all along. So I just want to share this with you because I think it's important. And someone says, right. And there is another where he predicted where the murders happened. And this person says, this is so creepy to read. Now, I remember reading his post and thinking, what a weirdo prior to today. Ugh, makes me sick now. I can imagine it would.
Yeah.
And then someone just says, I'm so freaked out right now. Man, I would be too. Okay. On December 1st, I believe the killers came from the high side of the house. They were covered in blood after the attack. Okay. So,
wow.
It seemed like that was just put out there without a question. Okay. Question even being asked, except for maybe his own. Then the next day he says, this is the high side of the house. They found evidence here. It is likely dripping from the killers. Either they fled through this area or they were parked there. This being the most strategic entrance point to the house. It shows planning.
Wow.
Now, my question is, at this point in the discussion group, just a few weeks after this happened, I mean, who is providing an answer like that and then commenting on, like, it shows planning? I think, people know when there's a murder, it's one of two things. It's impulsive or it's planned.
Right.
Like, this to me seems like an over intellectualized phrasing of what he stated there. And as we know, and I pointed out my other video in the Reddit survey, of all those questions, there are only 9 which are his original questions, because the rest of them are questionnaires from other things. One of his original questions is, how did the person flee the house? Well, he answers it right here. Okay, this is interesting. Papa Rodger, how do you know they found evidence? December 2nd also. How do you know what that evidence is? Number 3, stop spreading rumors. You're not helping, jackass. And I mean, this is just jackassy, like Bryan Kohberger. How do you know, or how do you know they found evidence? Well, no one does. How do you know what the evidence is? Well, no one does. And then stop spreading rumors. You're not helping. Well, dude, you just told everyone to speculate.
Right, exactly.
You know, I mean,
Yeah,
God, talk about setting people up for failure. And then Papa Rodger says there are no rumors here. Move along. But I just asked you to speculate, you know?
Right.
Okay, so this is from, I don't know, an account. The problem being, assuming this is accurate, dripping blood might not be the killer's blood. It might be blood from the victims. That would probably do very little to help identify the killer. Good point. I know. It's also grotesque too.
Well, it's just.
And then Papa Rodger says, "Yep."
Okay.
Very matter of fact. And when
Yeah,
I think,
no kidding.
I think, I feel like I'm just going to be talking as though this is Bryan Kohberger. I feel like he wants people to be giving credit, not necessarily specifically to him, because that would mean he'd be caught, but in the right direction and getting the facts straight, understanding the amazing work that he did and not disrespecting it by like rumors, right?
Right.
So, somebody says facts or rumors. Another says just a rumor, I believe. And then, okay, never mind. I think I missed something there. Let me go forward a little more. I might have to bring the other one out. Okay, nope. All right. Did the killer or killers drive or walk to or from the scene? Thoughts? And again, this is just like one of the questions of the only 9 of which were Bryan Kohberger's original questions from the survey.
Oh, that's right. You compared those. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And I'll put the link to that in the description if you haven't seen it yet, or you can just go find it quick anyway. But someone says, this is a good one. I've thought walked this whole time. And somebody says walked. Another person says walked. Another person says walked. Someone says walked mostly because of vehicle of any kind. Whoops. What did that say? Sorry. I didn't time this good. Okay, the last person, their comment was walked mostly because a vehicle of any kind would have been noticed. Ding, 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 ding.
Right, and was, yeah.
It was noticed. Huh, surprise, surprise. And then December 6th, based on the evidence, this is where I believe Xana was found. And then there's a picture of the blood dripping. Now, and this is one thing Angel D will tell you. I've told you guys from the beginning because I talked to Ethan's friends and I talked to members of the Chapin family, and I've known since the beginning. And unfortunately, the true crime YouTube world didn't sound like many people were believing me. Ethan was found on the bed. Well, now we know that because he was sleeping. That has been known all along. And even if I didn't talk to his 2 friends and members of the Chapin family, who, by the way, are lovely people. So all of you who are criticizing them, you can just fuck off. Seriously.
Yeah, no kidding.
God. But, even common sense would tell you, I mean, this is an immense amount of blood, and the blood volume in your body is partially dependent. There is a ratio situation. I am not a doctor. I am a me, but not a doctor person. But, people who are larger have a more volume of blood.
Right.
Ethan was a very big dude.
So do we believe that is Xana or Ethan's?
No. It's well, I mean, based on Xana's bed is directly above that. Okay.
Okay.
But Xana could have bled out on the floor, and it could have been a mixture of both.
Right. I mean, that's kind of morbid. I shouldn't ask that. I'm sorry.
So where he places Xana is like basically on the bed. So people then will say, the Prosecutor's, like, well, why would you have gotten this wrong if it was Bryan? Well, because he can't get every single fact right, or the authorities would have been at his door, zip tying his parents, and coming in with a SWAT team longer before. So what he's doing, I've noticed, is just swapping out certain details because it's almost like he can't bear to make it that wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, okay. So again, this shows a good perspective. we know where that red circle is where the blood is. And
Okay.
that's the back wall of Xana's bedroom. The headboard of her bed is on that wall, smack dab in the center of that wall. So it's right beneath where Ethan took his last breath.
Yeah, yeah.
And remember his, oh God, I'm just going to say this. The nature of his injury would have possibly yielded more blood leaving his body more quickly than the other victims, perhaps. I mean, they were also heinous, but, you know, the jugular vein is always going to be a thing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, and then this trend thing, I don't want to get into this, but here's the trend thing. I don't want. Okay. All right. On December 9th, why did the killer choose a knife as the weapon of choice? Oh, these are a little out of order now, but it's okay. I'll read you the date.
Okay.
And Papa Rodger, lots of good thoughts here. Listen to this, guys. Listen. Lots of good thoughts here. I also want to throw out that they are possibly unable to obtain a firearm. Papa Rodger, wow.
Yeah, no kidding. Would he have used the gun? I mean, is he saying? Wow.
And then we have Papa Rodger post. Did the killer stop at 4 victims out of exhaustion, convenience, or lack of knowledge?
That is creepy.
Mm-hmm. Now here, I just want to pause to say, the more you read through these guys, what this now this is going back to the reason why I played part of that video from True Crime Rocket Science, where he talks about the significance of what he calls bad teacher gate, which is, you know, Bryan Kohberger going into his teaching assistant position with too much glory, power, and ego attached and being too much of a jackass, overstepping his boundaries, but then not fulfilling other aspects of the expectations of him in his academic program, including in his like internship situation. So eventually things went all to hell in a handbasket. So I think that does connect here. When you listen to the nature of the questions posed by Papa Rodger, first of all, you're going to notice that Papa Rodger poses a lot more questions than anybody else, any other person in the discussion group. He answers, you know, with ending in period, less related to how many questions he asks, and a great deal of the time when he does answer in a sentence, it is an affirmation like, yeah, exactly. Excellent. Or you guys are doing a good job here, right? So not only is a lot of the phraseology very much, and again, it's in my other video, just like the Reddit DeSalle survey, the nature of the questions is also the same, the ones that are originally his, but also we find that the way he is posing these questions, he's asking them, it's like he's the professor and this is his classroom. You know, and he's using the Socratic method to pose a question, let people ponder it, let your students, ponder it, respond, you know, do a formative assessment and that's when you're, you know, evaluating how well your students are doing along the way, for those of you not in the field of education. And then, you know, doing a formative assessment of your students, deciding how much progress and skill development they're making in the content area that you are teaching, and then reformat, you know, make sure the content is, you know, still matching them, then reformulate your questions to put the questions back out to them. So through the form, you know, the platform or the format of, you know, discussion and discourse, they arrive to the answers on their own, and they also get the extra benefit of, you know, developing their critical thinking skills. This is a Socratic method. It is used all the time in teaching. You cannot be a teacher or work in any aspect of education without understanding it. And it is the, you know, blueprint for the teaching style that most professors use, because number one, back in the, I think it was 80s, there were some studies done that people believed meant that this was by far the most effective teaching style for, professors in college specifically. Since then, they've proven other things are more effective, mostly project-based styles of learning. But anyway, a lot of people have stuck with it, especially the intellectual elite class, or people who fancy themselves to be in that class.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm reading this one right here. And do you think, so are you of the opinion that he saw Dylan? Because I've heard different opinions, like he didn't
I do not think he did. I personally do not think he did.
Okay, so because he's asking right here. So my thought was, did the killer stop before victims out of exhaustion? We know he was tired. He sat down on the chair. He was tired. Convenience, that's not it. So
maybe, because the only other thing I was thinking is maybe it's possible that he sat down the chair in Xana's room because he removed his coveralls or whatever there. And I know there would still be a lot of blood and DNA, so this is not a perfect theory, but he may also not have wanted to take that outside. I don't know. But I think that I think any of the reasons that he sat in the chair, I think that exhaustion or convenience could cover that. And lack of knowledge would just be maybe not knowing that Dylan was there.
That's what I was going for. Yeah, I was going to say the lack of knowledge, and so he probably found out after the fact they were even there, is what that says to me. So would he have gone on and taken them too? Is
right,
which is horrible to think, but I mean, that's what it makes me think.
Yeah, totally. No, that's good. Totally. I hear you. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading.
It's almost like he's saying, if I'd have known, I'd have got him.
Right. Yes, I think that's definitely a possible reading of that for sure.
Yeah.
Whew.
God, that's terrible to think about it.
Rolling. All right. Seems like the type of question only a killer would have an answer to. Then Papa Rodger says, those are just thoughts, not evidence. Then someone says, Papa Rodger, you asked a question. Grace answered it. Then Papa Rodger says, I'm asking for opinions. I stated the question wrong.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, okay. Now, I got to pause this. Okay. All right. So somebody says, we really don't have any concept of what evidence they do or don't have. If the killer was brazen enough to shower in the house, he was comfortable in the house. And then Papa Rodger says, I think the killer cleaned the weapon and that was it. And I bet that is exactly what happened. I mean, a lot of people would surmise that. That's what I would think as well, because the weapon would be dripping. I mean, sorry, it's just, but I don't think anyone would have taken time to take a shower in that situation. They were in and out in 15,
Yeah.
And someone says, I don't know. Okay. Papa Rodger says, why do we think the dog was spared? Random. Yeah. And Chloe is that Elena person that was on DT? Is she one of the administrators for this Facebook group? Because I saw you were saying you're trying to convince her to release the unpublished comments or whatever. I didn't know that. I wasn't sure who she was, but if you could let me know in comments, that'd be awesome. And thank you. And then someone answers, because it was out of sight, out of mind in the room the perp didn't go in. Papa Rodger said, what room was it in? We're talking about Murphy. And then someone says, Papa Rodger, Leo didn't say specifically, just in a room, not with the victims. And then dog didn't pose a threat, blah, 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 blah. Someone says a dog can't talk. And I think there's another relevant one here, but I can't remember actually. Yes,
well, there's one creator that says the dog was outside for 30 minutes.
Yeah, well, hold it. And then listen, and then Papa Rodger says a psychopath doesn't care.
Yeah.
Psychopath doesn't care. I don't care. Psychopath doesn't. Yeah, I think the dog was outside because I mean, I think the dog was terrified. I think that from some of the audio evidence we have, it sounds like he was outside barking for a long time. I'm pretty sure of that. We know that the screen door was open. I think he was
just heard that. Yeah, that's the only reason.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is the only, people can only theorize about this, but it makes sense. He's not like he's not an aggressive type dog. He's a sweet dog. You know, he was probably scared out of his mind. He went outside to get help. Like, that's all he knew how to do. Then probably, you know, hid and, you know, did some like dog anxiety type tasks and like that. You know, that was the end of that. Poor guy. Aww.
I know. Wonder who has Murphy. Do we know who has Murphy now?
Jack Decor.
Oh, okay.
Kaylee's ex, yeah. So somebody says, I don't think about that at all. And then Pop Rodger said, good for you. Oh, I don't know what this is connected to. Sorry, guys. Again, this was very confusing. I did my best. And then someone says to Pop Rodger, I think the dog is a non-factor. So now Pop Rodger asks on December 9th, what do we think is the entrance point to the crime? Also on the 9th, why did the killer choose that house over all others in the area? Now, this was one I highlighted in the video as being just like a question in Kohberger's survey, and it's not phrased normally, okay? So this says, why did the killer choose that house over all others in the area, okay? The survey question says, why did you choose the target / location over all others?
Yeah.
Yikes. We've got some verbatimism going on there. Not good, BK. Not good. Not good if you're trying to be stealth, because you're not.
Right.
You ain't no ninja. You're just ninja. You're just a punk ass bitch, motherfucker. Like, I just like want to go slap that man. Like, I hope that somebody shows him what's up in jail. Like, Big Bubba, you know, do your thing and then put us on speed dial. I'd like to have you on as my featured guest. Let me know how it was.
Oh my God.
Sorry. It's just what he did was so horrible. And then, you know, with like, I feel certain that he's behind the Paparazzo account. I just, you know, adds an extra layer of repulsiveness to it. Like the audacity, like what you did to human beings. And then you're taking joy in this. Like, you are fucked up. And so is my friend Big Bubba, and you're going to find out all about it. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. I completely believe it's him. I completely 100% believe it's him now.
Yeah. I feel, to me, it's undeniable. So to the question about getting in and out of the house, someone says, hold on, I'll ask. What'd he say? They're being funny. He said he'd think about, let me know later. And then Papa Rodger responds to that low intellect, because rather than responding to his question seriously, somebody was poking fun of a ridiculous question asked to a Facebook discussion group when obviously nobody could know the answer. And people, I think at that point, were realizing that those questions were coming too fast, too furious, too detailed, and too not normal sounding. So as to why he chose that house over all others in the area, or the question taken right from his Reddit survey, somebody says potential reasons. This is a good one, guys. Listen carefully. House full of girls. House full of specific girls. Party house, was familiar with the layout. May have been kicked out. Location, dark wooded coverage. Lack of cameras. And this is good thinking. And I think this is probably one of the reasons, several of the reasons Kohberger did, in fact, choose the house. Distance from his own apartment, car, if he parked his residence, 3rd floor windows, unobstructed view. And Papa Rodger to that says, excellent.
Wow.
Doesn't that remind you of like Hannibal Lecter talking to Clarice?
Yes.
Excellent, Clarice.
Wow.
You know, you had to come to me to figure out how to solve this crime. Excellent. Yeah. Okay, Hannibal. I mean, Papa Rodger. Okay.
Yeah, he thinks an awful lot of himself. That's for damn sure. I'm telling y'all, man, something. This, I know he pled, but I'm telling you right now, he's gonna do something that is gonna stir all this shit up once he gets in jail. I'm telling you right now, he's gonna do something. I don't know. I just have this gut feeling. I have no idea what. Something's gonna happen. Something big.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. I think so too. I think it's gonna have to do with Ramsland. Chloe answered my question. Alina started the group with her friend Christy and Cameron. That's who I talked to. I was gonna say I don't remember her name, but it was a name. That is who I talked to a long time ago. Who told me that? I think this is right. I wasn't as interested in this as I was, but this was a long time ago. We're measuring it in years. That they kicked him out of the discussion group the night of the 29th. Am I getting this right, guys? And that's all I really remember. So she says, though most of the work was done by Alina. I didn't know that. Okay. She has a treasure trove of unposted Papa content. Oh, I didn't realize that's what I was watching the other day when I tuned into Drunk Turkey. Okay, I get it. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for answering that question. All right. Okay. So Pop Rodger says, excellent, Clarice. And then someone says, random killers will also target homes based on the ease of escape routes, how far from the nearest neighborhood, whether it appears neighbors are home, etc. Guys, we're not going to get through all the posts today because it's 11:20 and I got like 2 hours of sleep last night. I have to be at work at 7:30 in the morning, but I'll read a few more and then we'll have to continue this. I always overplan my goddamn lives.
Well, yeah, but you've been doing some really long lives, Kelly. So
yeah, I know. The other one was ridiculous.
I love them. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I love long lives. So
yeah, but they're okay. But and to make a video, even a really short video, takes way longer than a bunch of long lives put together. So. Okay, Papa Rodger says the escape route by vehicle here is very important, yet they are focusing on a vehicle. This is when Papa Rodger starts to get all his panties all in the Papa Rodger bundle, soap on a rope, etc., because people are focusing on the car. Listen, the Bolo, the Be on the Lookout for the car, the white Hyundai Elantra, came out on December 7th. Okay, this was December 9th. And he says, again, the escape route by vehicle here is very poor, yet they are focusing on a vehicle. Yeah, it's very poor because you almost got into an accident leaving, we now know.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Asgat Industries, and your amazing 3D recreation video.
Oh my God.
Google Trends, don't care, don't have time to deal with that right now.
Yeah, so a lot of other channels, that's another question I got. So a lot of other channels are saying that he threw it in the river, the knife.
Yeah, I've always thought that, yeah.
So don't you think, I don't know, it's even since she put that out, that the police would have, if they didn't already think, hey, there's a pullover, which I would think they'd be like, let's just check this place. I don't know. But do you think they've gone back to check it?
I think that somebody probably has, but listen, if she made that video and she had all this evidence, it was great evidence. I think she did such a good job. And, based on what she knew, she critically used her critical thinking skills and put it all together and was able to determine some probabilities of how the unknowns happened. And I just have to believe with the FBI and the behavioral unit and all that, everyone involved, that people in law enforcement did the same. So I know that there has been, extensive searches for the weapon. And I believe I made a video about this long time ago. I believe it's in the Snake River. I believe that it was not disposed of forever until, he went home. He went back to Moscow at 9:31 a.m. And then he went on that. Did he go back home or no? Then he just went that crazy driving route.
The drive.
Yeah, I think that's when he got rid of it.
Yeah. I just thought that was so cool that she pointed that out.
Yeah, no, I thought it was too. Yeah. And I guess I feel like in retrospect, I should have figured it out that, there's probably like a 10-minute stop when you do the math, but she just did a good job of organizing all that. So it made sense. Like my brain doesn't do that or didn't do that certainly for this case.
Yeah. She's getting mentioned on a lot of channels now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Were you here when I said this? Michelle Jones says, what's the most hilarious about Papa Rodger's account is after Kelly brings this all to light, then MSM also starts connecting the dots. I know, Michelle, I was saying with some people here that back in the day, especially when I was getting information from Ethan's two friends and then some other people too. And I'm telling you, that information is always been fact checked to the nth degree. My dad ran anyone I talked to, he ran their government IDs as his lawyer self or whatever he does. And, kind of reluctantly, he, gave me the like all clear. They're exactly who they say they are. And like, if like you knew my dad, you would understand. So I knew that they were who they claimed to be. We checked their backgrounds like so carefully. And then the information, what they did say was not always able to be verified because it wasn't always that type of information, but anything related to it that could be corroborated, we were really thorough about it. I'm saying it wasn't just me doing this. So fine. So I start coming out with this information, and, then back in the day, it would be like the next day, 2 days, maybe 3 days later, usually Ashley Banfield would come out with a mirror image of my video. And I was like, inside sources. I'm like, dude, listen, there's no other inside sources who would have had that exact specific information. So yeah, it is kind of funny, right? And I don't usually think that. Like I was saying earlier, people in true crime talk about the same issues because the same issues are interesting. But I do see that. I do.
Oh, you see PK's comment? That's a good comment, PK. PKC. The one where it says, I think both are right. He probably hit it that night.
Yes, that's what I think. I think that's why I said when he got rid of it for Eva, I think he put it somewhere temporarily.
Yeah.
And then when he moved it to the Snake River. Yeah, totally.
That makes really good sense, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yep, totally. Yep. So I'm going to read just a few comments and then we're going to have to finish this. Yeah. I'll do it either tomorrow night or Wednesday night because I got to go to bed. I have not been I haven't been getting enough sleep, or my health, I feel like is suffering a little right now. So, but I'm so glad you guys are here. And now we'll get together an extra time this week. Yay! Let's see. Yeah, and Cyberpunk Central says obviously he knew where he messed up by taking his own white Hyundai Elantra. Wants him to stop looking for it. Yeah, not only did he take his own white Hyundai Elantra, he circled by the goddamn house where all these people were murdered 6 times in the time frame they were murdered in, and then he took that same own white Hyundai Elantra right back to the crime scene within like 100 yards. Just a few hours later. Like, how stupid can a criminology student get? A doctoral student, nevertheless. Please.
Yeah.
Unreal, man.
It really is.
Yeah.
I was looking over there to see what the comments.
Yeah. So what do you think about I know you think that, what else are you thinking as we're watching this stuff, my friend?
I don't know. Since you turned me on to a certain channel, I've been just listening to her. And she is batshit crazy.
I know.
And she is going after the parents.
I know.
And it just infuriates me. And, the whole thing with him pleading, I don't know how I feel about. I watched another creator earlier today, and I'll text you about her so you can go see what you think.
Okay.
But anyway, she was saying that a few of the parents are like not going to speak at the trial or at the sentencing. And she was saying that about what his reaction would be even if they did. You know what I mean? He'd probably just sit there cold as ice and like not even acknowledge them.
Yeah.
I don't see him acknowledging anything. I don't see him saying, you tell me what you think. I don't see him saying anything.
I agree.
Looking at anybody or anything like that. But I feel at least, we've got, he is going to go to jail. So that's something. But I'm so disappointed. And I feel like both sides copped out, Kelly. I really do. The defense and the prosecution. That's just my thought. I do too. At first I was like, I don't know. I just had a lot of feelings about this. And I was like, oh, Judge Hippler, you let us down. But then I started thinking it through. And I do know that in that situation, when someone takes a plea, the judge's only responsibility is to kind of like referee it to make sure that the crime to which a person is pleading is one where they admit guilt. And there is at least a very basic, with no standard, like no reasonable doubt or no, anything like that. Like there's enough, that's known, without the trial happening, that supports that guilty plea, that,
and again, there's no standard, but it's like, okay, well, that seems legit. I mean, it's a little kind of almost an informal rule. And, they do have a prescribed set of questions they go through, both federally and then jurisdiction specific. And again, that is to ensure that even like the dumbest judges are asking the right questions to make sure a person really is guilty of the crime that they're saying they're guilty of. But it is the prosecutor's job to include in the plea deal whatever the fuck.
Yes.
They could be like, and you're going to make me strawberry shortcake every night for the next year. Like,
no conditions whatsoever. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
I get just like Chris Watts, no conditions, no allegations.
Yes.
No written or in the courtroom verbal
Yeah.
admittance in specifics to the crimes. Nothing, baby. And
yeah, and I
that
don't feel like saying yes. I don't feel like just saying yes to each question, to each one of the victims.
Especially when they know
you
that
should
they
have
have
been forced to give a full confession,
exactly,
which is different, in my opinion.
It totally different, and especially since they know that once the plea goes to the judge, they know how that's going to go down.
Yeah.
So the buck stops there
Exactly.
at the prosecution's table, and they are the only people in the world who can bring out the truth. Most of all for those suffering families, half of which they knew were vehemently opposed to the plea deal.
Exactly.
What the actual fuck is up with that?
I'm so fucking pissed off about it. I can't even tell you. It's like when I watch things. I mean, like I said, I've gotten addicted to this case, even though it's kind of after the fact at this point. But I think there's still so much to be learned about this case, 100%. But I have to. I can only watch so much of it because I get so mad with all the stupidity that is taking place in this. I mean, and Taylor, she didn't have time to read all the discovery. I heard that, so that was one of her reasons for not going forward. And then him to say they can't place him there at 11:20 to the prosecution, to say that out loud.
Right.
So they're basically saying, "Hey, man, we didn't have a whole lot of anything but that sheath." I mean, that's how it sounded to me. I don't know.
Right. No, totally. Totally. And the evidence that came out initially and the probable cause affidavit that came out in that hearing and, in between, except for when Ann Taylor was doing her sneaky stuff.
Exactly.
Is the key, most critical evidence that is going to link Bryan Kohberger to those crimes in the most forensically accurate, reliable, and replicable way, checking off all of the hallmarks of the scientific method, which, yes, is used in criminal forensics. So this goes along with a question that DE asked, and hi, DE. A lot of people in the comments have been asking me very similar things today. So do you know why Bill didn't say that Bryan Kohberger was Papa Rodger at the plea hearing if Bryan Kohberger is Papa Rodger? And so let me just tell you a similar question I've gotten a lot on my Papa Rodger video is, no, this is totally not true, because if it was true, then this would be in the PCA. Oh, no, monsieur contraire.
Yeah.
In the probable cause affidavit and at the plea hearing, again, there are fucking fire trucks, dumpsters of fire, whatever, for like 15 miles worth of evidence coming down the old country road between Pullman and Moscow. I mean, it's like doesn't stop. So what they talk about or what they put in something like the PCA is the most critical evidence that meets the standards I just said, and a link to Bryan Kohberger being behind the Papa Rodger account, that even if everybody in the room could agree, okay, yeah, he was, there would be people in the room who could easily agree, well, okay, yeah, so he was behind the Papa Rodger account, but just because he was behind the Papa Rodger account doesn't mean he's guilty, because he's not. And they could make a case for it. So that's not like concrete evidence that gives forensic reliability, probability, or definitely not certainty that Bryan Kohberger is connected to the crimes. Because after all, remember, in the probable cause and all the way up to the plea hearing, the job of the prosecutor's office, regardless of how you think they did it, their job was at the heart of the matter at the end of the day, and more important than anything else, to connect Bryan Kohberger to the horrible crimes that were committed. Papa Rodger probably had nothing to do with that in their mind. It's too wishy-washy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'm going to jump down because I know you got to go, Kelly. But I mean, I just, I have so many
Thank you for
questions.
coming up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you
You
for
heard
letting
my
me come up.
call and you answered it.
Yeah, but I appreciate it because I learned so much from you, and I know you and I joke about it, but I've literally been pimping you out on
Oh, thank you, honey. I
Discord.
appreciate
Oh no,
that.
I gotta say it's really really funny because I got in trouble on one of them, and I got what do you call it? I got put in timeout.
For plugging me?
Yeah.
You don't have to do that. I don't want you to get in trouble.
No, it ended up turning out really, really good. It was okay. It was like really, really good. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, but it was just so funny. I mean,
That was funny.
I'll text you about that too.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, darling.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Have a good night, sweetheart. Thank you again.
Too. All right.
Chloe says, and I just saw this actually just shortly before the live stream tonight, Chloe. Judge, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Okay, you see it there. From the Parkland trial, made a video hating on Thompson's plea arrangement. The G's loved it. Y'all should watch. I just watched it. I'd never seen her channel before. Followed the Parkland situation. I did, I kept up on it, but I didn't follow it closely enough to know the judge's name. Like I would know the judge's name in cases, I followed closely. So thank you for that. I'm glad you said that because it was pretty cool. Yeah. PKC says, thought made some good points. Agreed. Let's see. Faraday says, but Bryan Kohberger had a reason to go down to the south end, not the next day, either change of buried area to the second location, dumping of the weapon. Agreed. And everything else that would connect them. Leave Papa Rodger alone. Much like leave Jim alone. Let's see. About the judge who made that video. She's the worst, but in that video, she was the best. That's great. All right, guys, I am going to end this because I'm going to be responsible for my health and my sleep patterns and my job because I have a big day tomorrow. Well, a short day, but I have a lot of stuff I need to do that's important. I know that. So I'm going to end this right now, but either think about it. I'm going to take tomorrow night off of all things other than like maybe hanging out with my son, I think. So probably Wednesday night, we'll continue to go over all of the Paparazzo posts and comments that have been made public. I'm pretty damn sure I got all of them that are relevant. Again, keeping in mind that people taking screenshots from their own account at various times with various levels of access are going to, get different perspectives. But I think I went through this many times. So hopefully I got them all for you. Yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here. You're awesome. And remember, life is hard, so please be good to each other. But most of all, be good to yourself like I'm doing to myself tonight. I'm getting some sleepy sleep because you deserve it. And so do I, damn it. I'm tired. If you're tired, go to bed. And if you want to eat a brownie, go eat a brownie. There's gluten-free brownie. So if you have celiac disease, just make sure it's gluten-free because I don't want you to be like inflamed and uncomfortable. Okay. All right. Let's call it Wednesday night. We'll continue this Wednesday night and on Friday night, for better or worse, we're going to do the part 2 of the last Watts Live. And yeah. Okay. Thanks for being here and I'll see you guys soon.